All right, this is part one in a series on how to start investing for Canadians. The type of investing that we're going to be talking about here is low risk and long-term investing. We're not talking about crypto, we're not talking about meme stocks, we're talking about investing for average people. The type of investing that we do is basically the same thing you would get from a financial advisor, but without all of the fees, because nowadays there's so many great companies and new technology that make it super simple that you don't need to pay someone to do this for you. So the first thing you need to do is pick a platform. Who are you going to invest with? I started investing with my bank, which is TD Bank, and I have since opened an account with Wealthsimple, so I have investments with both. Both are fantastic, but as a beginner, I would definitely recommend Wealthsimple. It's much easier to use, and all of the terminology that they use is much more user-friendly. And if you start investing with one company and you don't really like it and you want to try something else, that's no big deal. Most companies will pay for you to switch over to them, so you can start with one and you can always switch over at a later date. Once you've picked a platform, it's now time to open an account. Now there's many different types of investing accounts that you could choose from, so stay tuned for part two where we'll go through all of these in detail. All right, this is part two in our series on how to start investing for Canadians. So in part one, we talked about choosing a platform. We recommend Wealthsimple because it's so easy to use and it's insured by the government. So next you have to choose which type of account you want to open. In Canada, there are three really popular types of investing accounts. So the first type of account is called a TFSA account, or a tax-free savings account. And this is a special account created by the Canadian government that has tax benefits. So any money that you make on the investments that are sitting in this account are not taxed, which is amazing. Now, there are limits on how much money you're allowed to put into this account. It can grow to however big it grows to, but the amount of money that you can actually deposit into it has limits based on your age. So if you already have a TFSA account, make sure that you haven't already filled up all of your contribution room. The second type of account is called an RRSP account, and this is also a special account set up by the Canadian government, specifically to help with retirement savings. The benefits for this account are that taxes are deferred. So if I make $50,000 a year and I put $5,000 into my RRSP account, in my income tax this year, I would only have to claim making $45,000 in income instead of the 50, but I would have to pay taxes on that money when I eventually take it out of my RRSP account in retirement. There are also limits on how much money you can contribute to your RRSP account based on your income, so make sure that you haven't already maxed it out. And the third type of account is a personal investing account. This is not a special account. There's no tax benefits to it. So most people will fill up their TFSA and their RRSP before they start putting money into a personal investing account. Now, whether you decide to start with a TFSA account or an RRSP account is up to you. There's pros and cons to each, and there's some amazing resources online to help you make that decision. Stay tuned for part three, where we'll talk about buying your first investment. Welcome back to part three in our series on how to start investing for Canadians. So in the last couple of videos, we talked about choosing a platform and choosing an investing account type. And today we're going to be talking about what type of investing is best for you. So there are two different ways that you can do this. The first is called a robo-advisor, which is completely hands-off. You put your money in and it takes care of everything, just like a financial advisor would, but the fees are much lower. Typically, if you were going through your bank, you'd be paying 2 to 3% in fees, whereas a robo-advisor is doing the exact same thing, but for like 0.5% fees. Now, the term robo-advisor might sound scary and really tech forward. It's not. It just means that all of your investments are automatically chosen for you, and everything is done online, so there's no actual like in-person meetings or anything like that. The great thing about robo-advisors is that they'll constantly be rebalancing your investments for you over time. So as the world changes and evolves, or if we go through, God forbid, more pandemics, it will adjust investments to make sure that you still are investing in the best things. There are many different robo-advisors to choose from in Canada. Again, we recommend Wealthsimple. We are not sponsored. We just really love the platform, and it's super easy to use, and it uses language that anyone can understand. And Wealthsimple does have two different apps. The robo-advisor app is called Wealthsimple Invest. To get started, just download the Wealthsimple Invest app, set up an account, you answer a couple of different questions, and then you just simply deposit money in and it's automatically invested for you. It's really, really easy. Now, if you're not sure if robo-advisors are for you, you can always set up an account, try it out, and switch over to a different type of investing later on. The second type of investing is self-directed investing, where you're actually picking your own investments. So stay tuned for part 4, where we'll go over that in detail. Welcome back to part 4 in our series on how to start investing for Canadians. In the last video, we talked about investing with a robo-advisor, which is completely hands-off investing, but it's much lower cost than if you were to go through a financial institution. And in this video, we're going to be talking about self-directed investing, where you actually pick your own investments. Now, picking your own investments probably sounds a little bit daunting and high risk. It absolutely can be, but there are ways to do it very low risk and very simply, and that's what we're going to be focusing on in this video. So rather than talking about buying individual stocks like Tesla or Apple, we're going to be talking about lower risk and simpler things to invest in, including mutual funds, index funds, and ETFs. All three of these types of investments are very similar to each other, and we refer to them as the fruit salad of investing, and here's why. If I gave you $3 and told you to go to the grocery store and buy some fruit, you could buy, say, one cantaloupe. Or you could buy a fruit salad that has maybe 8 different types of fruit. Now, if you had bought just the cantaloupe and you find out that the cantaloupe has gone bad, you're left with no fruit. But if you had bought the fruit salad instead, there's only a couple of tiny pieces of cantaloupe in there, so you can pick them out, and you've got lots of other fruit to choose from that's still good. So in this scenario, the cantaloupe is an individual stock. So you're putting all of your eggs in one basket and it's higher risk. Whereas the fruit salad is the mutual funds, index funds, and ETFs, which contain little pieces of a whole bunch of different stocks. So it's lower risk. Now let's talk about the difference between mutual funds, index funds, and ETFs. When we talk about mutual funds, we're talking about actively managed mutual funds. They have very high fees, but before the internet and online banking, this has kind of been the traditional way of investing and was really the only option. Note that mutual funds are not direct investing. Index funds and ETFs are nearly identical. They are passively managed, so they have much, much lower fees than mutual funds. They are a newer type of investing that's become more popular over the last 20 years, and that's because they have much lower fees, but the performance tends to be similar, if not better, than a lot of mutual funds. Stay tuned for part 5, where we talk about direct investing in index funds and ETFs.